Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, we'll be focusing today or now on the economy of Lagos. We're joined by the Commissioner of Economic Planning and Budget, Mr. Ben Akabueze. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Well, we do know that time and again we talk about the budget of not just the country, the states. Talking about why we need to lay a lot more emphasis on seeing how we move from having more allocations for recurrent expenditure to that of capital expenditure. We've seen some states do that. Tell us about Lagos. How is that working out here?
Well, I think that with every sense of modesty, we in Lagos championed this drive to ensure that a greater proportion of the budget is devoted to capital expenditure. Because ultimately that's what fuels growth in the economy, and it's empirically proven that there is a positive correlation between investment in infrastructure and economic growth. And so it's not again just a question of how you cut the budget between capital expenditure and recurrent expenditure. The quality of that capital expenditure is also important, because you can have capital expenditure that is just what they call white elephant projects that really don't contribute to growth. You can spend the money eternally on capital expenditure projects that never get completed. If a road isn't finished 1 year to the other perpetually, you're spending money on the road, that road doesn't contribute to economic growth. So I just thought it's important to highlight that.
Do you think that there should be, we should revisit our budgeting process? Some have thought that if we make it a 3, 2, even 4-year process, it may not necessarily be bad, rather than coming up every year to come up with that budget. And something it always poses that kind of challenge with respect to capital expenditure.
Well, in Lagos, the federal government, Lagos, and I believe quite a number of other states have adopted the medium-term expenditure framework, under which you're actually not looking at, yes, the law requires you to present annual budgets, but you're looking at the medium term at every point in time. So when you conceive a project that will go beyond one, fiscal period, yeah, you actually upfront plan how resources will be allocated year after year to that project till completion. So every year we have our medium-term budget framework, which is on a 3-year rolling basis. Okay, but it is out first. There is the medium-term sectoral strategy. So each key agency of government have their medium-term sector strategy, which incorporates a costed priority list of projects that they will be executing over the medium term, put in time buckets depending on the amount of resources that they expect to be available over that period. So annually, therefore, what we then take in the appropriation bill comes out of all of these medium-term plans, which hopefully themselves are anchored on a longer-term plan. So in Lagos, for instance, now we have our long-term plan going up to 2025. We have the Lagos, what we call the Lagos State Development Plan going up to 2025. Then we have our medium-term, expenditure framework, under which we have the medium-term sectoral strategies. We have the medium-term, fiscal strategy. We have the medium-term budget framework, and that then is further drilled down to annual budgets.
Well, what exactly is the vision then for the long-term plan, the 2025-year plan you have?
Well, over this long term up to 2025, our vision for Lagos remains to transform Lagos into Africa's model mega city. And, that means it's not just, it's not to transform it into a mega city because it is a mega city already by virtue of its population that is over 10 million people. But so we are not aspiring to be Africa's mega city, but to be Africa's model mega city, which means that in terms of our infrastructure, we want to be the model. In terms of, and that includes social infrastructure, education, health, care, environment, everywhere.
But in terms of, current infrastructure, in terms of what people will use, maybe modes of transportation, a host of people have seen, work getting done in that area, but it would seem that it's taking forever and ever, and that some other areas have been left out.
I wouldn't agree with you. However, first of all, we were dealing with a massive deficit, in infrastructure, which had accumulated over a period of over 20, period of over 20 years, over two decades. There was very little investment in the infrastructure, of the state. Between the end of the Jakonde administration and the, advent of the Tinubu administration, very little investment.
In spite of the fact that we were former capital of the country?
Precisely. We look around you and see. Whether it's the roads, whatever. Is it in energy? There wasn't anything. In water, the last time any major water works was built in this state is over, over 30 years ago. So we're in trying to then address that deficit. At the same time, you're having the population of the state explode. We have about 22 million residents in the state now. And so it's almost like running to stand still. And that's why sometimes it looks like, there isn't much, progress being made.
Would it also seem, sorry, Nyota, that you're biting off a little? Because definitely, one can understand that there is a population explosion. Are you being systematic in terms of how this deficit is being addressed? Or is it that you're trying to do a lot at once?
No, we are being very systematic. In 2007, for instance, we came up with a 10-year infrastructure investment plan for the state. We estimated what was required to fix the infrastructure over that time frame. And we came up with an estimate of $50 billion US. And that's broken down into different areas. Roads and drainages being the single largest chunk of that, which was estimated to require $20 billion fixed in that time frame. So that's where you are. The next thing is, how do you mobilize the resources to deal with that? And that's a point that is often lost on a lot of people. A lot of people say, oh, Lagos is a rich state, you have a lot of money. But you can only be rich or poor relative to, your requirements. A man who has just 2 children, a wife and 2 children to cater for, may be rich. Another man with the same amount of resources, who has 20 children to cater for and 4 wives, may actually be poor. So we just have, in terms of the scale of the challenges that we face, we don't have enough resources. So it is not that there isn't a plan, okay? If we could mobilize #1 trillion today, for the budget for this year, we have enough projects pre-planned. We have enough executing capacity within the state to be able to do that. But that's so the resources, resource availability represents our singular biggest constraint